All right, welcome to our first official podcast. Again, I don't even know the name of it yet, but we're going to be working on this, and I'm excited because my first guest is a good friend of mine, Frankie Jimenez, and he's obviously been in the business for a very long time. Not the real estate business, by the way, more of the estate planning, and I'll allow him more to talk about what he's doing and what, I guess, the field of what he is accomplishing for his clients. But before I begin, man, I mean, you know, we know each other for a good, 5 years now?
Something like it. It's definitely been a hot minute. I remember we met at in downtown Downey at BRB.
Oh, pretty. Yeah, that's right.
I think Fernando introduced.
Yeah?
He's like, I think this fucker has money. You should. Like, all right, I made the intro.
Was I drinking back then?
You were?
Yeah, all right. So you met that side of Edwin.
You know what's funny is I never got a chance to see it.
No?
Like,
no.
In Bull Effect, you were always super chill around.
Yeah, I was tame.
Yeah. You were behaving. You were behaving.
Yeah, I was behaving that night. Okay, so tell me more about your story, because you have a story of some hardship that you had in the beginning, and then kind of go into now what you do now, right? And what made you start doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting story. I think a lot of people that go into the finance industry, they actually, a lot of times they come from like money or they're second generation financial advisors. It's very rare that, especially the Latino community, Latinos do not do well in the financial planning industry. So
right.
My upbringing was, I mean, I come from a great family, very, very close knit family, but it was 7 of us in a 2-bedroom house. And I remember when I started the industry, I had to borrow my father's suits, right? Like that's all we had.
Yeah.
I had my Payless shoes and my spiky hair, and I was trying to get people to invest with me.
Yeah.
You know? The funny thing about it is that my father is like 4 inches shorter than me, and he's much bigger.
I was going to ask you that. Like, how do these suits fit you? Was your first day in court type of size?
Exactly. They were like, fuck, I don't know what this is doing, but yeah. And I can remember one of the doctors that became a client of mine, she said, had I seen your shoes, I would have never signed up with you. I would have never even listened to you.
Wow.
She's like, with whatever commission you make from this, go buy yourself a new pair of shoes.
You're right.
So back then I went to the mall and bought some Guess shoes for like $100. But to me, that was a lot, because I made $13,000 a year before I started in the financial planning industry. And when I started, it was more like, hey, we were doing some basic foundational planning, some life insurance, some Roth IRAs, these kinds of things. So very basic, fundamental planning that's important, but not the high level stuff that we're working on now. Now, what eventually happened was I made 6 figures right away, but I was working 80 hours to make a 6-figure income, where I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, I don't want to live this. This isn't sustainable. I'm not happy. I feel like I don't have purpose. So in 2017, I had a really bad emotional crash where I was dealing with a real strong episode of depression. Like, I couldn't get out of fucking bed. Like, It was hard for me to just get up and leave the home. So ultimately ended up almost leaving the business because it got so bad that my wife and I had to dig through our couches, through our cars, just to buy like milk for our kids. And I mean, that's devastating.
It is. It definitely is. It can really kind of, I mean, even your ego, yourself, whatever, your confidence, it was just like, I'm sure it was beating down on you, because the fact is, you're seen as the breadwinner of the family, and now you're going through these trials and tribulations, having to dig for money and to just buy milk, like you said, right? And now obviously you're doing certain things, and you talked about a couple of things too. You were kind of like the old saying, you're faking it till you made it, right? And even then, at that point, you did a couple of things. You made some 6-figure income, and then it seems to me that you went back to a different level. Is that what happened there?
It was. I mean, when you're having trouble getting out of bed, you don't like what you see in the mirror. It's very difficult to operate. And my wife's a registered nurse by trade, but she never had to work. Like, I think she worked for like a couple of years, and then the business was making enough for us to be able to live, to buy real estate. So, but yeah, in that year I went to shit. Like, and it was, what I came to the realization is that in order to live, I want to be happy more than I want to be rich.
Mm.
And I think the only way to be happy is through fulfillment and the service of others. So I wasn't being fulfilled doing like basic foundational planning. I was like, any fucking person could do this.
Yeah.
I'm not really having an impact. I'm not making what I would feel like a difference in my community. So the important part and the big transformation began when I Googled, how do you get rich? And a video from Jim Rohn came out. We talk about this all the time.
Oh, Jim Rohn. Yeah.
Rohn, rest in peace.
Yeah, right.
I always say, I don't know how to be alive. I don't even know if I'd be alive. That's how depressed I was getting. And he said something that will forever change my life, which was, you got to work harder on yourself than you do at your job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there it is. Like, I want to be happy and I want to like the way I look. I want to make sure I'm taking care of it. Like, so I'm pretty intentional about, with the exception of the drinking, right? But I definitely try to, I'm very careful of the things I watch, the people I'm around, the food I eat. Everything is very specifically tailored to my life, to live the most purposeful life. So it came from me working on myself. And then through working on myself, I said, all right, I want to do something like spectacular. I want to have like a niche market. So what we've gotten into with our business tripled twice. So after having like the crash, the business tripled the next year because I started doing and putting all these things in place, a lot of personal development mindset. And then it tripled again. By that time, I was making more money than I thought was possible. Like, I mean,
what were you doing different? I mean, is there any specifics that maybe someone can see and say, wow, I'm gonna start doing that for myself? Because there's gonna be people out there that is going through the same thing now. So what are the things that you did different from that time that you said, or you looked up Jim Rohn, right, working yourself more than working your business? Aside from obviously, watching what you eat and what have you, but what else were you doing that you feel affected the whole outcome of your business?
So we're all slaves to our habits, right? Whether those are good habits or bad habits, it depends on you. So I have a very structured way of doing things, and I want to do the same thing. I want to wake up at the same time, and I want to go to sleep at the same time, because it's science, right?
Yeah.
I'm always looking for how to optimal performance. So for me, it's, if I'm not up by 5 o'clock latest, I'm missing out on time, which means I need to be in bed by I need to be asleep by 10, latest, to make sure I get.
Yeah, it's a good solid 7 hours right there.
At least that is, I think it's important. So I wake up and then immediately go into a state of gratitude, which is just I do this weird thing, and my wife trips out because my wife changed her whole life too. She's gotten into fitness and diet, so I've always done it where when I wake up, I look at her and I just say, thank you. I can't believe, I don't know why this woman is even with it. And I don't know what I did to deserve.
Yeah, I feel the same way, that's like, oh, did I score her again? I got that worked, but yeah.
My joke is always, when I was able to get my wife to go out with me, I knew for sure I was going to be in sales, because that was the greatest sale ever.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right.
And so it's waking up with gratitude, and then I wake up and I journal. I journal a few things that pretty much just science, things that make me happy, my goals, how much money I want to make. There's a very specific structure. I could literally spend an hour just.
That's sort of affirmations then. Your
affirmations, really, really powerful shit, as if it's already happened. So what's neat is the life I live today, I envisioned years ago, right? And then now the life I'm envisioning, when to me, my visualization, I want to be able to visualize something as if my eyes were open. And what I mean by that is, I close my eyes, I want to be able to see my life so crystal clear.
Right.
I know what it smells like. I know what I'm wearing. I know who I'm with.
Yes. It's so clear. High definition. I mean, isn't that so crazy when you visualize what you were just saying right there, right? I was able to relate to that, because when you visualize something so clear and you speak it out into the existence, you're basically manifesting it, like the law of attraction. And when you're so convinced that that's what's going to happen X amount of years from now or X amount of months from now, it happens. It just happens because the way you behave, the way you talk, the decisions you make, are geared towards what you're visualizing.
So I think it's neat that the whole visualization thing, how the human mind doesn't know if it's real or fake, right? So in your mind, you are already living that life. So
Yes.
that's the difference. So I think that does attract, but you got to spend enough time with it, and you got to be really, really clear. And you have to be careful what you ask the universe for, right? Because it might be specific how you ask for it.
You're right.
I don't just ask for money, because then I don't want to get like a death claim. You know what I mean? I want to be very in-depth.
That's true.
Earn
Right.
this money.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't say I want to lose weight. That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, because you can get a disease, and you're right. You have a point right there.
So I think that my therapist taught me that, right?
Yeah.
So therapy is a huge thing.
Oh, hey, by the way, full disclosure, I've done a therapy, so there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with like going to therapy. I mean, and like, now with mental health, that's been big recently, right? And so that's something that we got to be able to address as well. Is that type of situation, because I gone through it myself.
And in the Latino community, it's looked down upon.
Yeah, it's not with machismo. Oh yeah, you go into therapy, you pussy, and this and that, and like, oh, you're not. What are you doing? Man up, and why are you going to therapy? It happens, man.
Yeah, I'm super transparent about a lot of things. Like in the book, Think Like a Monk talks about that. Like the strongest person is also the most vulnerable, and like in therapy, I learned like what others think of me is none of my concern. Like I don't really. It's not. I think we all obviously as humans, it's still important. Like we're built that way, but I think that's ultimate win mode is to no longer care what other people think of you. Because I mean, I'm working on it, but I'm still human. I can still be sensitive.
Of course.
Just I try to be careful about caring. I care about certain people's opinion, and those are the people that I genuinely care for, and that I feel genuinely care for me.
And these are the same people that you selected to be in your circle.
Exactly.
Right? Because as we get older, that true saying, right? If anybody is watching, when you're young, you try to collect as many friends as possible, right? All these pennies, 100 pennies, right? They say the 100 pennies. And now as you get older, you rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And because the less distractions and the less the probability there is of someone that won 1 penny saying, hey, guess what? Guess what he said about you? And if you care about what they say, because like we said, we're still human, that may ruin your whole day, right? Or if that person is trying to purposely drag you down on certain things that you don't want to be part of, they may ruin your day. Versus just having these 4 quarters. And what's likelihood that these 4 selected quarters, or 4 selected friends in this case, are going to do something to kind of, alter your way of life or your day? Because that one thing can ruin your day, can ruin your month, and so forth and so forth. So it's important for us to understand that there has to be this energy field, a positive energy field that we need to protect. And in this industry, I don't know if it's the same thing in your industry, but in real estate, there are no friends. I've said this many times. I don't have that much friends. Everyone else is our acquaintances. They're acquaintances. They're not friends. They're there for a reason. They're there to gain a benefit. And as soon as that benefit's accomplished, they're gone. And I think that's one of the things that we also have to look at as well. And you were just talking about that. So
yeah, I was super protective of like the people I let into mine, because I am so open and vulnerable with like people that I don't need a lot of people knowing all my shit, right? Like, and it's always to serve a purpose, right? Like I think I evaluate my life based on purpose, right? Like, what am I doing that leaves the world a better place? Like, that's a fundamental value of mine. Is I want to make sure that the people that are around me, their lives are better because of an interaction with me.
Right.
And I think whatever you give is whatever you receive. So I just try to be super careful, because I can be sensitive to things. I mean, once you go through like mental health and depression, you're always sensitive to that, right? Like you could always backslide if you're not careful. So definitely having the right people. So another big thing that I did to make like that shift was all the people I was spending time with made over $500,000. So immediately within 2 years of evaluating that, like bumped me up way over that. Like and it was a fast process. And then obviously we just continuing to build on that. It's that who you spend time with.
Yeah, that's the biggest. I mean, you see it in animals, right? These reptiles, you put them in a small little aquarium casing, as soon as you buy them a new one who's larger, that snake starts to, grow big, or that reptile starts to grow big. So it's kind of that saying, you put yourself in a situation where naturally you're going to grow towards that, and you put yourself in the room, like, you want to be the dumbest person in the room, right?
You're a product of your environment.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that still remains true, and it will always remain true no matter what. And I think sometimes when us, Latinos as well, we fall into this category of like wanting to be and hang out with our friends, and we want to be accepted by our friends, and we don't realize that we outgrow our friends, and we're long overdue to move on, but we don't, because we want to appease them by being around them, because they're always going to be calling us, hey, let's go hang out, let's go have a couple of beers at my house and watch the game, and then that Saturday afternoon turns into Saturday night, and then Sunday it's another day of like, desmadre, like they call it, right? Before you know it, you're in this rut, and you're doing what you're hanging around with, right? You're doing the exact same thing that they want you to do, not because they mean bad. It's just that's what their life is, and it doesn't mean that they're bad or they're lesser of anyone else. There's not. They just have different goals. And I think once we kind of disconnect ourselves from that group and go into a group that we want to be part of, then you start growing into that, and now you become a normal piece in that landscape.
And that's a beautiful thing. And so I'm always like, I want to learn a lot about the human mind, right? Like, so I do like a lot of research on it. Like, why do we do the same stupid shit over and over, right? And there's a very specific reason, and it's the human brain is designed to survive. So it wants to keep doing the same thing over and over because you're not going to die, right? So
it makes sense. Yeah,
that's why it's hard for us to continue to want more growth, because you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. The human brain is not designed necessarily to help us. It's designed to keep us alive. Mm-hmm. So it's a survival tactic that's happening. So that's why it's so hard to make change. Because like, if you're overweight, you don't want to fucking be overweight, right? Why can't you change it?
Yeah.
It's emotion.
Yeah. And you haven't died.
And it's easier to be overweight. Mm-hmm. Like, some of the stuff I eat, I'm just like, God damn, this is so fucking delicious. I'm like, and I always allow myself to taste, but I try to be pretty gentle because it's addicting. Once you have sugar, you want it.
Yeah.
4 or 5 days.
It's a very addicting drug. I mean, there's a lot of drugs out there that's, bad drugs, good drugs. And, at the end of the day, sugar's one, and I think that's something that we have to watch out for. It's our health as well,
And see, that's why being around certain people helps you. Like, so another big thing was I always make sure I'm doing hard shit. I want to do stuff that challenges me, like, emotionally and physically. So
yes.
In 2020, I did a half Ironman. Mm-hmm. I don't like to swim, bike, or fucking run, right? Riddle me that, how I would do it. It took me like 7 hours.
Wow.
So
that's crazy, yeah.
But that stuff, when you don't negotiate with your mind and you're in charge, like, sometimes I just want my mind to like be like bitch and like, I told you we're gonna fucking do this.
Yeah.
So by 6 a.m. I'm in the gym because I've already meditated, I've already journaled. So 6 a.m. the latest, working out. And then after you're done with your workout, working out in the morning, it just gives you like a different level of energy, and it makes you feel like you've accomplished. Because it's important to me that by like 9 or 10, I've accomplished more than most people will the entire day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can out of my life.
Correct, yeah.
So it's doing hard things. I always want to challenge myself. I want to push myself. I always want to be learning. And then after, I always take a cold shower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so refreshing. That's a soothing type of feeling when you have that cold shower especially after a good workout.
It does some crazy shit. Like,
it does something to the body. When the cold shower, I read something that it really alters your confidence. It alters your energy. It just wakes it up. It wakes up certain nerve endings. It puts you on your A game for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's super uncomfortable. I think a part of it is also like getting yourself to do things that you don't want to do. Like, it really does help, because how many times at work we got to do shit we don't want to do. Mm-hmm. I'm introvert by like naturally. Like, I'm not like this social butterfly. So some of these interactions can be like overwhelming. And for a while, I was thinking like, how to scale my business. And in my mind, for years, I was like, well, I'll just fucking work harder than everybody, right?
Yeah.
But you can only, I was seeing like 20 to 25 people a week.
Yeah.
Interacting and exchanging energy and time with 25 different clients.
That's
every week.
That's mentally draining.
It's fucking banana.
Yeah.
It's so, that's not scalable, right?
Yeah.
Now, does that mean I'm not going to work hard? No. That doesn't mean that. I'm just going to try to work harder and smarter.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I also don't believe it. Oh, work smarter, not harder. No, you got to fucking do.
Yeah. Both. Exactly. Yo, I totally believe that. Every time I see that meme or like quote, work smart, not hard, or what have you, I'm like, no, it's both.
Yeah.
It's both. And I totally understand that part. And there's also that saying that, you go faster alone, but you go further together. And when you have people in your company that are in that same mindset, you go further. And that's really the ultimate thing, because this is a marathon, not a race.
I think that's beautiful, man. And to make sure you're with the right people. Because we have like a 10-person team now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you've seen and interacted with us. Like,
yeah,
these people bring the vibe.
Yeah.
Like they make me feel good.
Right.
I'm happy to be around them, and it's just a great environment.
Yeah, they're great culture. I mean, yeah, I've seen them with my own eyes. I mean, they're great people, and they're out there, and they all have their goals, right? So tell me more about what you do. I mean, what does your group, this great culture that you have, what are you doing now? What exactly is it that you do? Because you're successful. That's why you're in this podcast, because I don't want to ask successful here. I want you to explain a bit more about what you do and how you change people's lives.
So that's a big thing, right? Because I think in order to do well in life, you have to serve, right? You have to serve if you're in real estate and you're only like, fuck, I got to make this commission. Like, no.
Yeah, that's the wrong way of thinking. It's not about that. It's about serving people, and the money will come.
I mean, you guys are giving people the American dream, right? You guys are changing people's lives, potentially sending them up for higher.
It is the biggest asset in their lives, they're purchasing, right?
I mean, real estate's made the most millionaires. There's a reason.
Correct. Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So what we do is high-level financial planning. What we want to do is, a lot of people have these ideas and designs in their mind, like, I want my money to be able to do this for me, but they don't know how to do it, they don't know how to protect it, and then they don't know how to give it to the next generation. So what we do is we create those plans to pretty much tell them, hey, this is what we need to do to hit whatever your goals are, right? Some estates, they're like, hey, I want to make sure I leave just a little bit of money so that my family doesn't struggle. And some people are like, I want to leave $100 million and I want to make sure that this trust can last multiple generations, right? In my mind, I think about this often. I have to fucking see my grandkids be born. That's important to me because your trust can go until after that person dies, right? So technically I could be controlling from the grave.
Right, yes.
And I could have an impact for hundreds of years, right? And I'm not doing it because I want people to remember me. I'm doing it because I want to give my family the opportunities that I didn't have growing up, right? I had great, incredible parents. I got to see my parents buy some real estate and get out of the poverty, but had they had somebody like me guiding them, their estate would probably be worth $10 to $15 million right now.
Wow.
At least. And so that's my goal is I want to teach, especially minority communities, how to leave generational wealth so that they can set up 2, 3, 4, 5 generations.
I mean, why do you think Latinos are not well versed in this? What do you think it is? I mean, I know we talked a little bit about the culture and everything else, but I mean, is it just a Latino thing, or is it across the board?
So we're new to this country, right? I mean, if you really think about it, it may be starting second generation born here, but people around our age are first generation born here. If they're even born here, a lot of times their parents migrated over. So my parents came when they were in their teens. So my father doesn't really speak the language completely. And nobody teaches us this because you're not learning it in school. If you go and you look at beachfront property, people aren't fucking buying and selling beachfront property all the time. That's already been in that family for multiple generations. So we're new to the country. We're new. But that's why you see the Latino wealth growing so much, because now we've had enough time to start to figure shit out, right? Like guys like us are figuring this shit out. Right. And then we're looking for the information. So I think that's the thing. And then also, like in the somos desconfiados, right? Like we always think we're out to get each other, and it's because the Latino community likes to fuck with each other, right? Like the Jewish community,
our own people are doing this to ourselves. You know,
it's crazy that we want to step on each other, and we don't want to see our brothers like succeed.
Yeah,
like
it's something that obviously needs to change over time, and I think over next couple of generations. I'm going to remain hopeful that it's going to become better, that our culture is going to become a culture that we all look out after each other. I mean, no one can really compare a lot to the Jews. The Jews, obviously, they look out for each other. I mean, they have offices, I mean, estates and stuff like that, and they all get together, put the money together. I mean, they bought half of downtown LA back in the 40s and 50s. You know, they own parking lots, and all that stuff is already, they're not selling that stuff. I mean, can you imagine how much money that's worth right now? They're not selling that at all. And because they didn't really have a country. If you think about it, Jewish community is the only group that doesn't have a country. They're a moving group that they're just kind of figuring out where they're going to belong. And because of that, they're always kind of looking after each other. They don't have a base and per se, because they're always Palestinians are trying to take away, you know, that country or that territory. But the idea is really for us to understand that as Latinos, like you said, we're just getting started. We're understanding what wealth is about and where we can go and put our money in and get into, multiplying our money, right? Generational wealth. You know, it's funny. I read a book and I picked it up, and it was called "What Would the Rockefellers Do?"
I remember you sent me a message like, "Hey Frank, what's up with this?" Yeah, man.
Here I am thinking, I'm reading this book. I'm like, yeah, Rockefellers. I'm gonna figure out how to, generate wealth, and I'm gonna see how they did it, and I'm gonna do it for my family. And the freaking book turned out to be a whole life insurance plan. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, what? And this is what opened my eyes, because, when I first learned about life insurance. I got introduced to this by someone that was like door knocking our house. They were like, "Oh, you want us life insurance and $35 a year, a month or something, and you get term. And if you stop paying for it, then it's gone." And I'm like, "Well, what's the point? I'm young. What's likely that I'm gonna die?" And and this and that. You weren't thinking that, because it's just like, I got bills to pay. I got to put money into this right now. Like, who cares? But as I got older, you start to realize the importance of that and how that can be used as an investment vehicle itself, whole life, per se. And so you obviously, offer that. And so, again, I know that you talked about helping families and understanding what they need to do with their money, but how does life insurance and everything else that you offer come into play? I mean, when someone comes and sits down with you, like, and says, "Hey, Frank, I want to be able to have $1 million in my account by the age of 65, or I want to be able to have this." Is there a certain plan? I don't want to get the details, but is there some sort of plan that you already have, or is everyone different?
So every plan is super tailored to that person's like risk tolerance, to like how much they want to have, where does legacy play into their minds. So the thing that I think there's a misconception, because there's a lot of TikTok videos and YouTube videos coming out on this life insurance where people are just like making it seem like this, like it fixes everything. And it's like, no, life insurance in like whole life and these permanent policies, I think they're only for like, I only like to recommend them to people that are trying to be like wealthy, mm-hmm. are already wealthy, right? Like if somebody's like, you know what, I want to make $70,000-$80,000 a year and that's enough for me, I don't think they necessarily should be buying whole life insurance. It has to be specific. So we make sure that every client is tailored to each individual client, right? Like for me, between my wife and I, we put about $50,000 a year to life insurance, right? So some people I might be like, whoa, that's a lot of money, right? But some of our clients put hundreds of thousands, if not close to $1 million a year in these life insurance funds. So it's all relative, right? It's relative to the person, but that's why that design, like, by the time I die, I'm sure I'll be putting like $1 million a year into the life insurance fund. But it's because legacy is really important to me. And I can use that money. I've bought 2 houses using life insurance in the past. So,
and those are the type of things that we have to understand, that we can buy assets. We can buy cars. We can buy whatever. I mean, there's things you can do with this whole life policy that I just recently found out. You know, I mean, before that, I probably wouldn't even dabble into whole life until that idea or that option was there available. You know, going back to that book, what would the Rockefellers do? You know, they literally use whole life as their personal bank, where they have enough funds. Let's say they have $300,000 in the whole life, and now you know, instead of going to the bank and getting a loan to get a car, they just go to the whole life and say, hey, I need $30,000. You know, it gets drawn out, and now you pay it back if you want it, if and when you do, to back to the whole life. And even when it's out, it's still accruing money from that year.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the whole life, it's a great product if you design it correctly, because there's good ways and bad ways to design it, and depending on how you design, it depends on the commission. So as you can imagine, like, people in sales, they care more about the commission than about the community. So my biggest thing that we pride ourselves at Arbor Wealth is do what's best for the client, not what's best for you. And if I ever see like the advisors like not following that, then they won't be it.
I always wanted to ask you that. I'll ask you this. Are you able to look at the illustrations of your competitors and see, yeah, this particular advisor really fucked this client? Like, you can see the commission that was taken out of that by looking at the illustration, or are you able to not know that information?
We know. So we know. But I mean, I try to be careful because I don't want to talk bad about anybody. Plus, I don't know who's teaching them, and I don't know what their situation is.
Right.
So my biggest thing is I try not to judge anybody, because it's only like, I don't blame people that don't create this generational wealth. It's not their fault. Maybe they didn't have access to the information. And sometimes representatives are being taught to make the money, not to build the wealth. But that's why it's not sustainable, right? You have to be doing it correctly for each individual client. So it's very big. It's very big to me. And the commissions we get on a lot of the policies is very microscopic in comparison to some of the other policies out there.
You know, it's you know, I have you on this show because you know, I come from the real estate side, right? So I'm on about flips, I'm about investments and income property and what have you. You obviously have different ways of investing this money somewhere else, so it can grow in different portfolios, whether it be the market, the stock market, whether it be you know, IRA, and you know, so just you got a plethora of different vehicles for you. And for me, and for a lot of the real estate agents and brokers and what have you, they use the income property or apartments or owning doors as a way of retirement. And so, you know, before I met you, all I wanted to do is just buy a shitload of doors. Like, my goal is to have 300 doors, right? Or just immediately, I mean, even a short-term goal, like we talked about earlier, I'm going to have 45 doors by the age of 45. I'm 42 right now, right? I got 8 doors at the moment, right? And so for me, it's like, to get to 45, I know it becomes easier as you start to, you know, accumulate the other doors, because the equity that you can leverage off of the other ones, and 1031 into like from a 4-plex to a 10-plex, right? Because that proceeds would be your down payment. And so that's the idea. And so for me, I think it's very important that we should not only just talk about or invest money into income property or apartments or doors or whatever you want to call it, but also in the things that you're talking about and what you're helping your clients with. Because it's important to know this, because if the real estate market ever takes a huge crash, you know, we don't know if the money that's in your other markets, not part of the real estate sector, how that's going to do it. Is it going to do well or not? Because can you imagine the whole saying, put all your eggs in one basket? That's just the wrong thing to do. That's a high risk to lose all your money, potentially.
I mean, I think that's the problem, that a lot of people either have to use one or the other. Like, no, a good financial plan has everything, right? Because real estate has like a lot of tax benefits. It's a passive income now. The problem is it's not as easy as it used to be, right? Like, a dog could get a loan. So like, it would need to accumulate like properties, because they also weren't so expensive as they are today. But that's why those people need to come to you, right? Like, so my biggest thing is I always want clients to have real estate in their portfolio if they want it. Some people don't. Like, honestly, the more I deal with like my tenants, the more I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, if I wasn't getting all these tax benefits, I wouldn't be so like willing to keep it. But
Right.
It's a fucking disaster. But like, people like it, right? Like the flips, you guys can make a fucking killing.
Yeah.
Like in the stock market, I'm not competing. Like I'm not here to compete. I'm not the guy that's going to make you 100% rate of return every 6 months. Like anybody that says that's just fucking crazy.
Right.
Just passive, little by little. But to try to compare it to what you're going to make on an active flip.
Yeah, it's two different things. Like Warren Buffett, he's more the passive, type of person. He accumulated his wealth over time, versus someone that, and like kind of like relating to the stock market, you're going after those blue chip startup companies that are like, could be the next golden boy of the Fortune 500. But then on the other side of that token, it could freaking fail just as fast. So you have to be right or not. And that's how you're able to accumulate a lot of money or return on the stock market when you search for those companies versus the Fortune 500, the Coca-Colas and Nikes and Apple. And, you got those that are obviously going to continue to do their thing, such as well as Google. Now going back to the real estate, yes, it is a lot of risk because you got to know your numbers. You got to understand exactly whether this property is going to be worth what it's going to be worth once you're ready to sell. And that's the risk that you take. And also with the market can change tomorrow. Like right now, we can talk about how great the market is. But as soon as this podcast makes it on YouTube, it's all hell's breaking loose. You know what I mean? World War III, Biden crooks, or something. You just never know what's going to happen. And you got to be prepared for that, and it's a risk. Everything's a risk. Like Jim Rohn said, man, paying your bills is a risk. Not working is a risk. You're not going to make it alive. That's a risk, so everything's a risk. You got to figure out how to gauge that risk level and where to appropriately put that money in.
I think that's why having like the right people around you is super important, right? Because like if I try to do a flip, it's much more risky for me than you do it because you have experience, right? Like I did one flip, didn't go so well, but because I bought the house in
I remember that, by the way. I remember that. My booty was on Florence Avenue, and I remember you calling me about this deal. I think you had listed it somewhere else, asshole, but...
I still have it. That's the thing.
Oh, that's what happened.
Fucking work.
You didn't set it because it wasn't setting or something, or you did not decide to set it after. One of those two things happened. I do remember that.
So it was just not... But it worked out, right? Because now that house, I mean, I don't know. I've probably made hundreds of thousands of dollars on it, but that's just...
It's worth more now.
It's great. It was fortunate, but the flip was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't have the social capital I do today. And what I mean by social capital is like my secret weapon, which is I saw a podcast that explained social capital is the most important capital you ever have.
Yeah.
So me knowing people and being like well-respected in the community, like people go out of their way for me. And the reason is because I refer a lot of business. I want to give a lot of business because I think, like I said, universal law, whatever you put into the universe to get out. So I want to make millions. I got to give.
Yeah. I love that term social capital. And I think that's very important for people to understand what social capital is. And to me, I'll explain what that is in my experiences, right? I tend to get a lot of calls saying, Edwin, I got this flip. Edwin, I got this idea. Edwin, I got this, this company, or I got this property. I got this venture I want to get into, but they call me. And what made them call me, right? And that was because of what got created, what I did, right? And they see that I continue to be successful in certain things. And they know if there's going to be a guy out there that's going to make sure that if I partner up with them, this thing's going to be successful, it's going to be someone like Edwin. And when social capital is that, it's more like they reach out to you versus you having to go door knock looking for the business. Now people are coming to you saying, here's my money. Edwin, what the fuck you do, but you make money. Make more money out of my money that I'm giving you. And you're like, okay, you get it. Here's the money and you give a bigger return. Obviously, there comes a risk for that. But what happens is that you become more efficient with your business because now you don't have to go out there and spend hours and hours to prove yourself because now you built such a reputation of being successful all the time, most of all the time, that they come to you with their ideas, and they're like, these ideas are great. It's kind of like being a VC, a venture capitalist, like being a Shark Tank. Like, hey, bring me your idea. I'll decide whether I want to get in on it, and at that point, you really understand whether, that's a great idea or not. But really, that's what social capital is to me, because you build that capital based on what you put out there and the amount of time you go out there, network and put yourself in that light.
See, and I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. And I would even elaborate on it a little more, which is whenever anybody needs anything, they call me, right? The reason is I'm going to know somebody, because I onboarded 500 households, not 500 households in the last 13 years of my career. It's too many households, right? That's why we have a 10-person team now. But whenever they need something, we got it. If you need someone to wash your car, to fix your house, you need the legal work, whatever you need, we have. And because I have this great network of people that respect me and they appreciate me the way I appreciate them, it's very helpful. It makes me more valuable.
Really?
And plus, if you're giving people a lot of business, they're either going to reciprocate in one way, shape, or form. I always believe in the barter system. Right?
Yes.
That's my biggest thing. A lot of people give me things for free, which I try not to take, but it's because they're well, Frank, you help me out so much.
Yes, I totally agree on that part too. And that's being resourceful.
Yeah.
Right? That's truly being resourceful, point of contact. You are and should be the go-to for everything. Like you mentioned, whether they need plumbing, electrical, they need advice on something, they need an attorney, they need a tax preparer, something, they should go to you. Because eventually when they do need a couple of things that actually apply in your business, what you provide, they'll come to you. They're not going to go to your competitor. They're going nowhere else. They're going to come to you. And again, it goes back to helping people. The more people you help, you get rewarded twofold, fivefold, whatever that is, But so as long as you have that passion of helping people, that will determine everything else in your business, because the money will come automatically. And it's really based on why you're doing all this. You're doing this for your family. You're doing this for legacy, for generational wealth. And at the end of the day, you're also helping people. You're helping people. At the end of the day, what great position we can be in your industry, in our industry, than to help people out of your own heart, and letting them know that this is the right way of doing things, because I know this is the right way. And yeah, you get paid. It's no secret, but at least you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And you get paid based on the value you bring to the world, right? If you don't make the money you want to make, you need to learn to become more valuable. So that's a big thing, is I want to provide value. And I take it very personal, very serious, my line of work, and that's what I tell the team all the time. If your clients retire comfortably, it's because of you. Mm-hmm. If they don't, it's because of you.
Right.
And I think when you start taking it that serious, because
that's a huge responsibility. The way you say it, wow, they're under my, responsibility. They're in my hands at this point. And, I would feel a sense of guilt if this family doesn't retire the way they want to do because of my lack of, right? So that I can see how that weight can really motivate someone to do the right thing.
And see, absolutely. And even more so motivation is I'm a fiduciary, right? So I legally have to do what's in the best interest of my clients. We're on legal retainer, contracts. So we do, I don't need that to do what's best, right? Even before I was a fiduciary, I still operated on the same guidelines as I do today. But it is really important. And I think when you lead life service and science proves that you can never be more fulfilled than when you're serving somebody else.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
I would truly believe that. And that's why, there's certain few out there that do so great in their respective industry or positions and businesses, because they lead with passion, they lead in helping people. That's it. If they come in this industry or your industry thinking about money, then they're going to burn out real quick, and they're never going to build any type of relationships. It's about opening relationships, not closing transactions. And that's the thing that we believe, right? And once you're done, you get paid. That doesn't stop. You got to continue to keep that relationship and make them your friends and make them understand that you're there at all times.
Yeah, and see, I wish I would have known that. I was 23 when I started in my business. Mm-hmm. And all I was thinking about at first was all the worries. So okay, thank you for sure. And then you get kicked in the face. And you're fuck. Yeah. Or no, everybody that's wealthy, even if it was given to them, they have to have some type of intelligence and have some type of work ethic to keep the money. Mm. Now, a lot of times we always make the joke, And it's the first generation builds it, the second generation enjoys it, and the third generation fucks it. So it's our goal to be able to, with the attorneys, build the plans so that they can't have applicants to fuck it up.
Yeah.
So that's big for me. Like, I want to make sure, because we only have control of what we have control.
Yeah.
I think I'm a pretty good dad, and I think I've raised my kids to be great children, but I don't know how they're going to raise their kids. So the thought of putting my life's work in the hands of something I don't have control over, I'm just not going to.
Yeah, because down the line, it could be a great grandkid, granddaughter, daughter, meets a fucked up husband or what have you. And that husband just takes her to the cleaners. That's it. That's all she wrote, and that's all the legacy wrote, right? And so I think it's very important. And I think that's why, we're linking up, and that's why we're doing our estate planning, because I want to make sure that when I'm gone, the Acevedo legacy continues on. And I want them to look back in 2023 or whatever year they want to talk about. They say that man started it all. That man and his wife started this whole family tree, and it just altered the whole direction of how the Acevedo family, gained their wealth. And it wasn't through 9 to 5; it was through businesses and understanding that there's things that need to be taken care of, and controlling it from your grave, like you said, is key. So
yeah, crazy. I got goosebumps just thinking about that, right? Like you saying it, just like my legacy, people, like I'm gonna build this, like, because we are the pioneer. I like that's why it's super important that we step up our game and that we do learn high level concept. What we understand, what I've come to understand, is people that are good at making money are usually the worst at administrating it. That's why they hire us, right? We come in to help them, and this is how it should be structured. Because when you start making a lot of money and you start accumulating assets, like Jay-Z said, more money, more problems. But the Latino community doesn't even know what those problems are, right? Like they a lot of times when we're doing like our discovery meetings and we're explaining, hey, these are my concerns. Are we hear shit like, oh yeah, I pay my mortgage out of my fucking business account. Like it's ridiculous how organized and unstructured. It's very dangerous. And people have this misconception, well, I have my LLC, so I'm good. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. And I think that's the problem, the simplified approach. Same thing about the whole thing of paying your kids. Like, it's not that simple. You can't not just anybody can do it. There are like rules and guidelines. And then we have like people that aren't specialists just doing this. Like we have the tax person on the corner just saying, oh yeah, you can do it. Go ahead. It's like, no, there are fucking rules to be able to do that successfully, that if you were to get audited, you want to make sure that you...
It's kind of in my world, like if I was not in real estate, I'm trying to sell my house on my own, thinking I could do that. You're like, I could do this, but at the end of the day, there's just so much work that goes behind it, and how much money they can lose in the back end because they wanted to save some money on the commissions, because that's the short-term thinking. You got to be able to look at the bigger picture. And so when you talk about, corporations and how I can get these kids paid or the Augusta law, all these things, obviously we're not experts at it, but there's experts that we know of, that you can definitely refer them to. And I think that's very key. And what I wanted to cover in today's show was more about, not only the short-term money making, but also the long-term savings and long-term wealth building through the passive investments that you obviously set out for these clients of yours, as they come to you and present to you what they want for their goals. And I think, in this case, I wanted to kind of really, summarize the fact that, real estate investing, flips, and what you offer is all combined into one thing that can definitely be looked at as a portfolio that can be maintained, and you can win throughout the whole thing, not just one or the other. It's not about one or the other. It's not real estate, or whether just invest into properties and that's it. That whole life policy stuff, I don't understand it. I don't want to get into it. I think the whole purpose is, no, you should be able to put investment or your money in so many different vehicles that if one goes down or one's not doing well, you didn't lose your shit on everything,
And that's the important part to learn, right? Because like in real estate, you sell out whatever it's at, right? Like that's a big thing so our biggest thing is that we do structure, like there's certain all our investments on our planning is designed around the client. So they let us know, hey, Frank, I need this amount of money available in 2 years, this amount in 5 years, this amount I probably will never need. Go ahead, like invest that more aggressive. So everything is tailored so that real estate people are notorious for a couple things, right? Number one is over leveraging, and number two is not paying their taxes. Right? That's what real estate people do a lot of. And then so it's important for us to make sure that we protect our clients sometimes in themselves.
Right.
And not having liquidity and over leveraging it's a very dangerous game. Like, and I think we're in the business of keeping people wealthy, like not making it. We're not here to double the asset, like I said, every year. We just want to make sure that if any like legal problem comes down or any financial crisis, that we always have their planning designed to make sure that they're going to be protected and taken care of regardless of what happens.
Yeah, estate protection, right? Protect your estate. I think that's the biggest thing. So good stuff. I wanted to thank you for being on the show. I wanted you to understand that you have a lot of wealth of knowledge in regards to the estate planning and how you can help people protect their estate. Not only that, but to create one. And I think it's very key and important to know that. And so if there's anything that you want our viewers to take away that you can think of right now, what would that be?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is knowing that your life can change in an instant. I think that's something that was really important for me, because I felt like my life changed overnight, and it was just because I made a few little tweaks to it. And I think just expecting good and knowing that as long as you do your work on your side, that everything will work out on the end. People focus so much on the results, but in our sales industries, we can make so much money. We make hundreds of thousands of dollars in 1 month, but that's not a reflection of hard work, right? Like, I think I always say it's important to see what goes in the funnel. Don't worry about what comes out. Just worry about what you put in. Because as long as you're putting in, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's expensive. Your time is such an expensive commodity. So my biggest thing is I pay other people to do the work for me. I trade. I want to give money to get my time back. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So my goal with my clients is they pay us so we can take care of everything in their life. That's what.
Just having a team, right? And I think that's one thing that the wealthy people do. They make sure everything else is taken care of. So now what they're good at, or what they want to really do is, which it could be family, same time with family, traveling, whatever it is, they're released of the other thing that are going to drag them down, and they can really highlight themselves to do other things that they want. I wanted to thank you again, guys. Frank Jimenez from Arbor Wealth, amazing leader and businessman, and he is doing things, and just keep a lookout for him. If you wanted to kind of plug your Instagram, to follow you at what, and let them know.
Yeah, I was actually really active during COVID, but I got inactive. But you know what? I think I'm going to start posting and start doing that. I know it was good for business. And yeah, I want to share.
What's your at? What's your?
It's at Arbor Frank. So ARBOR Frank. So definitely follow me on there, and any questions. And thank you, Edwin, for having me, man. This is
it's a pleasure.
Time.
Definitely.
We're here to serve.
Guys, stay tuned for the next episode. Again, we will come out with a lot more shows, a lot more episodes. We don't know the title, but you know what? It's exciting because this is the first of many, many, many more to come. And so I appreciate this, and hey, let's make this happen. Edwin Acevedo at the Lotus Broker. Continue on. Thank you.